Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into a really fascinating, complex text. It proposes this idea of a hidden structure, a kind of secret architecture that connects ancient languages, biblical codes, and prophecy. It's a big claim, so let's break it down.
So, a sword, a verb, and a prophecy. What could possibly connect all three of these? Well, the source material we're looking at today makes a pretty bold claim that it all comes down to a single three-letter word.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. How on earth can one tiny word possibly connect them all? A weapon, a state of being, a prophecy? It seems impossible. But to get to the bottom of it, we really have to unpack the author's logic piece by piece. And that means starting with the very specific tools they're using to build this whole case.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at this idea of a code hidden in numbers. Then, we'll explore how three little letters can have two completely different, even opposite meanings. After that, we'll see how a sword can actually become a word, and how that ties into this concept of a global verb of being. And we'll wrap it all up by seeing how this whole thing supposedly culminates in a big prophecy about a stone and a mountain.
Okay, let's jump right in. Section 1, the code in the numbers. The author calls this the dual testimony of Strong's Concordance. So first things first, we've got to understand the main tool being used here. It's all about a specific reference book and a very particular way of reading it.
So the key to this whole thing is something called Strong's Concordance. If you've never heard of it, it's basically a massive index for the Bible. It takes every single word from the original Hebrew and Greek and gives it a unique number. So far, so simple. But here's the twist. The author's method, what they call dual testimony, is to take one of those numbers, say number 19, and look at both the Hebrew word and the Greek word assigned to it. The core belief here is that it's no accident they share the same number, that they're connected on some deeper level.
Let's look at an example, number 19. The Hebrew word, ibsha, means the brandishing of a sword. It's this image of decisive, even violent contact. But then you look at the Greek word for number 19, agathosine, and it means manifested goodness, like a fruit of the Spirit, something that comes from within, not from effort. So how do you connect those? The author argues they're not random at all. The idea is that the sword, the instrument of division, somehow creates the space for this goodness to appear.
Here's another one, number 29. In Hebrew, it's the name Abiyah, which means Yahweh is my father, a statement of identity, right? Well, the Greek word for 29 is angereo, which means to be compelled, to be pressed into public service. It's a forceful word. So the connection the author draws is that identity, being a child of the Father, isn't just a title. It comes with a built-in, unavoidable obligation.
And one last one for now, number 1199. This one is really interesting. The Hebrew word means brutish or senseless. It's talking about an inner kind of bondage, right? A state of mind. And the Greek word, desmos, a bond, a chain, a physical shackle. So you have inner captivity and outer captivity linked by the same number. It's presented as this complete picture of what it means to be trapped.
Okay, so we've got these number pairs connecting swords and goodness, fatherhood and duty, senselessness and chains. Now get ready for the big reveal. The author claims that one single three-letter word encodes these exact numbers we've just been looking at.
And that word is ASI. Okay, how does this work? It's pretty straightforward numerology. A is the first letter, S is the 19th, and I is the 9th. Now watch this. If you just add those numbers up, 1 plus 19 plus 9, you get 29. Ring a bell? And if you just line them up next to each other, a process called concatenation, you get 119, 9, or 1199. Bam, the exact two numbers we just went over. Pretty clever, right?
But it gets even deeper, because ASI isn't just some random collection of letters that happens to work out numerically. This is where the argument pivots. In Sanskrit, the ancient language of India, Asi is a noun. And you know what it means? It means sword. And we're not talking about just any kitchen knife. This is the primordial weapon, an instrument used to restore cosmic order, to cut through confusion.
And this quote from the source material really hits the nail on the head. The sword does not arrive in a neutral location. It arrives at the field of bondage. So you see the link. The sword, ASI, arrives exactly where the chains are, that's number 119, the number for bondage, to break them.
All right, so we've got a word, ASI. We've got its numbers, 29 and 1199, and we have its meaning as a sword that breaks bonds. That's a pretty compelling package on its own. But this is where the whole argument takes a massive turn.
Because what if AI is more than just a weapon? What if those same 3 letters have a completely different meaning at the exact same time? And this right here, this is the absolute heart of the argument. Because in Sanskrit, asi isn't just a noun, it's also a verb. It is the second person singular form of to be. It literally means you are.
Now, if you've studied any Eastern philosophy, you've probably heard this. Asi is the critical word in one of the most famous phrases in the Upanishads, Tat Tvam Asi, that you are. It's this powerful, profound statement declaring that you, the individual self, are one and the same with Tat, the ultimate reality, the absolute.
So let this sink in for a second. The instrument that severs is also the word that unites. The exact same 3 letters, ASI, are presented as both the sword that cuts things apart and the verb that declares everything as one. It's a total paradox, and that's the whole point.
Okay, so this is getting pretty big. But the author doesn't just leave it in Sanskrit. The claim is that this focus on the verb of being, this I am or you are, isn't just an isolated thing. It's a pattern that shows up across multiple sacred languages.
And this is where they pull it all together. Look at this. In Hebrew, you have Ayeh Esheheyeh, I am that I am. Then in Sanskrit, Tatvam Asi, that you are. And in Greek, from the New Testament, Ego Eimi, I am. The argument here is that if you put them together, you get this kind of complete divine conjugation. You've got the first person, the second person, and the third person, a full spectrum of being spread across these key traditions. All right, this brings us to the grand finale, the 5th and final section, the stone and the mountain. This is where the author tries to tie everything we've talked about, the numbers, the sword, that verb of being, into one single powerful prophetic image.
The image comes from a prophecy in the book of Daniel. Here's the gist. There's this giant statue made of different metals, representing all the kingdoms of the world. Then a stone, one that wasn't cut by human hands, comes flying and smashes the statue to pieces. The pieces turn to dust and blow away, and then that stone, that little stone, grows and grows until it becomes a giant mountain that fills the whole earth. The author's claim is that this stone is ASI. It's the ultimate divine instrument. And here is the final grand synthesis. It's a bit dense, so let's walk through it. The stone is the sword, ASI. It shatters the statue. That's the breaking of bonds we saw in number 1199. The old order is carried away. It departs. That links back to the compulsory service, the obligation of sonship in number 29. And finally, the stone becomes a mountain, which the author also connects back to that divine identity found in number 29. It all loops back.
So in the end, it all comes down to this idea. The blade of recognized identity cutting through the illusion that the self and the absolute were ever two. It's saying that the act of cutting, of separating from illusion, is the act of recognizing unity. They're two sides of the same coin.
So, what do we make of all this? Is it a genuine hidden architecture woven into language and prophecy? Or is it just an incredibly compelling series of coincidences, a masterclass in pattern recognition? We've laid out the argument presented in the source material. Now, what you do with it, well, that's up to you to decide.